Welcome, all you wiretappers out there. I've got a quick little bonus episode here. I came into contact with my guest here, Christopher Armitage, and he has a really interesting background. He has a new book that's out there about human trafficking. And when I first started talking to Chris, I said, what's the deal with human trafficking? When I was a policeman, that was not a deal. I see it all the time. I see that term human trafficking. Well, what does human trafficking even look like? So, Chris, welcome.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, Gary. I think your show, the work you're doing is fantastic, and I'm honored to speak to you and your audience here.
Right,
and
thanks.
also to talk to another former law enforcement professional as well.
That's right. Both former cops, so we say. Now, what's the title of your book? First of all, somebody wants to get it. What's the title of your book?
So the title of my book is Forced Sex Trafficking, What It Is and How You Can End It.
Okay, so I guess forced sex trafficking. I think that's the most important subject we can talk about here. And I think we all know that, in third world countries and countries where there is no options, many times sex work is an option for a woman that needs to take care of her elderly parents. So, the youngest daughter, the attractive daughter, she can help take care of her parents when there's no other way to take care of them. And from the Eastern European countries and from South America and Mexico and from Asian countries, these countries that don't have much opportunity, these sex traffickers, they see that and they see these girls are vulnerable and they can make some money out of it by bringing them, especially to the United States. So, Chris, tell our guys a little bit about that. How does that work?
Sure. Well, transnational sex trafficking is wrapped up in so many multinational criminal activities, and they extend their tendrils very far. There's a lot of money behind them. So many people in the United States who go to massage shops and street sex workers and that kind of thing. They think that what they're doing is victimless, but the fact is there is an incredibly widespread number of people who are told, say, we're going to help send you to America from this country that we're currently in. And once they get here, they're told, okay, you owe us $50,000. You're going to work it off. And so they're slaves. They're being held against their will, or drug addiction can be used against them. Sometimes they'll be forced to take addictive substances to facilitate the slavery side of things and keep control over them. And so, but this isn't just something either that affects folks from other countries who are brought here or folks in other countries. Even here in the United States, for example, in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, just a few years ago, there was a young woman who was about 15 or 16, and she was abducted, and they found her 2 years later in Arizona, in a public park, and they just thrown her out of the van and we said, all right, we're done with you. We got the work we wanted out of you. And that's what they, for 2 years, they've been making her work as a sex slave. And so this is something that all of us need to be concerned about.
So, like in the United States, for example, I assume it would be many times would be drug addicts. I just watched a show. Many of these guys, many wiretappers out there have seen the Deuce, and so it was about these sex workers, street prostitutes in Times Square back in the day, and some of them were kind of doing it on their own accord, but mainly they were doing it because they had a pimp who was providing them with drugs and protection. And they were obvious girls that didn't feel like they had any option other than doing this. Is that, how do you see that developing in the United States?
I think it's a representative of a cancer, and I don't use that term lightly, like a cancer within our society, our culture, our nation, and all of humanity. That these toxic situations bubble up where humans feel that that's what they have to do. And sometimes it is their only option. We need to do better. And for me, I'm not someone who just is going to sit around and complain and say, gosh, I wish that people didn't have to suffer like that, where they felt like their only choice was to go out and be essentially coerced into sex work. And so the way that we fix that, though, is to take individual responsibility. That's what I did when I wrote this book. I said, what's something that's universally despised? Something that none of us want to see, and sex slavery is that thing. And so folks who are out, being forced, whether it's Times Square or even in small town America, not even Spokane, Washington, that we use forced sex trafficking trade even. It's universally despised, and we can do something about it. Everyone watching this, no matter where you are with your means and your resources, can find some way to fight back against this, and know in your heart that you're taking your morals, your values, and doing something with them.
So, we this podcast really focuses on organized crime, and by the nature of the business, it's got to be organized. So, say from south of the border, are the drug cartels? Is that like a side business since they're already smuggling drugs across? They've got all these ways to get people across the border.
It's a massive, massive multinational income stream, and it is very tightly paired with the drug trade. A lot of times they'll actually ship humans as if they're drugs, or even combine them. Women that they're trafficking, or children even, store the drugs on their person or within them. And so the two are very tightly linked. It's a huge income stream for not just cartels, but we're talking billions, many billions of dollars. Not just the cartels, but also Asian criminal organizations, terrorist organizations. They know that they can make money this way, shipping people illegally around and forcing them to sell their bodies.
Interesting. Well, now, in your book, are there going to be some stories about some of these different situations that you've uncovered and law enforcement's uncovered?
Yeah, we in the book I spoke about a few different circumstances. I covered some of the high-profile cases and fleshed out what they mean from a victimization perspective. Because some victims are just it could be your daughter, and they're 13 years old, and they're messaging someone on a forum online or on Reddit or something like that. Then all of a sudden they're gone. They don't belong to anymore. They're working on a webcam, that sort of thing. Some of the stories are, like I said, are more high profile. In the book, I talked a little bit about Jeffrey Epstein, Michael Jackson, broke down some of the behaviors.
Okay.
And that's what, with the title of the book, forced sex trafficking, what it is and how you can end it. I wanted it to be absolutely clear. You're going to be able to have a grasp on the subject and how you can make a difference in ending it in under 150 words.
All right,
or
great.
sorry, 150 pages.
150. Okay,
Yeah.
Great, Chris. And that's available on Amazon, I would have to imagine.
Yes,
correct?
sir.
As a Kindle or a hardback. I'm sure most people read Kindles anymore.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to me about this topic that I really knew. We didn't even think about it when I was a copper, been 25, 30 years ago now. We knew about drugs and we knew about prostitutes, but it all seemed like it was just an individual thing. And I'll be honest, we never really looked beyond the surface on that. It was a crime that law enforcement has overlooked for a long time, is this organized. Go way back to the 30s when they got Lucky Luciano for basically sex trafficking in New York and convicted him of that. But law enforcement has not paid much attention to it. So I'm woefully ignorant about it. I'm glad that you were able to enlighten me and enlighten the rest of my guys out there. I really appreciate it, Chris. Say the name of your book one more time.
Forced sex trafficking, what it is, how you can end it. And I also want to mention that 100% of the money, Amazon takes a slight cut for every book you sell.
Yeah.
But after that, every dollar goes towards organizations that are mentioned in the book as helping advocate for victims, provide aid to victims, and fight back, sometimes in a literal sense, against forced sex trafficking.
Okay, Chris, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for having me, Gary. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, guys, that was Chris Armitage. I appreciate Chris coming on here. He's, of course, he's got a book to sell, and I'm happy to help him do that. I just think it's a really interesting kind of view of crime. What we think of as a victimless crime many times has victims. Even drugs would say it was a victimless crime, but there's many victims of drug addiction. So just remember that next time you think about going to a massage parlor, one of those Oriental massage parlors, just give some thought to who those girls are and what is their motivation for doing what they do, or any of that other kind of sex for pay kind of activity. And we're all men, and most of us on this podcast are men, and And I know when I was a young man, I did my share of drinking and pranking around. So just keep that in mind. I appreciate it. And don't forget to look out for motorcycles and hit me up on Venmo. Might want to buy me a cup of coffee one of these days. I've got my movies out there. I got all kinds of stuff for sale. And support the podcast. Tell a friend about it. Tell your neighbors about it. Tell two friends about it. It's actually what they say to do. I'll just keep growing this podcast. I've got several new interviews lined up with a couple of them with real deal mob guys. Those are, they're out there all over the place. I've done quite a few, and I've got a few more to get. And I don't know. I'll leave Sammy the Bull alone. I'd have to pay him money, and same way with Francese. I'm not going to pay him any money, but there's still mob guys out there, and I've got a whole lot of agents, FBI agents, DEA agents, ATF agents, police officers who've done a lot of work in that area and have a lot of good stories to tell. Plus, I like researching these stories and then telling you the stories because I think they're interesting. I like to think that you all guys are all entertained by that. So thanks a lot for supporting the podcast. Talk to you later.